Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Merry Christmas. You're wondering why I'm wishing you for Christmas already? Christmas has come early. You will see in a moment. Let's do a quick census. Can the women in the house please put their hands up? I just want to take a rough approximation of numbers. Women. No, not those who think they're women, I mean actual. I'm shooting myself in the foot here. Right? I've been teaching you the Dhamma and now you're asking, is it actual women or people who think they're women? So I mean, right, once again, up in the air. Okay, thank you. Down. Men? Okay, I think we have a winner. So, thank you. I'd say 2/3 of the house are actually women. This is typical. It's typical. I think every temple you go to, it's the same story. Even when the Buddha first attained Buddhahood, who came forward to offer him some alms? Yes, it was Sujata. There was a woman who had that opportunity. They have always played a vital role in the preservation and proliferation of the sasana. So much so that I believe that if it hadn't been for them, today we may not even have the sasana. I know that's a bold claim. Some might even disagree with me, but even the Bodhisattva had a mother, right? How would we have had Prince Siddhartha if we hadn't had Queen Mahamaya? It was going to be a very special mother who was going to give birth to a very special son. Right from that point forward, in every nook and corner you look, as the sasana came forward, one step at a time, there were always very strong, powerful, mighty warriors, both in the guise of men and women, who have shaped up the sasana to what it is today. Most of the time, maybe in today's culture, when you think of someone who is in robes, I think the picture that comes to mind is what? A monk, a Swamin Wahanse, typically a male person, right? In my opinion, it's a pity that it is so. Yes, of course, the Buddha was a male, and that might explain, or that might be half of the story as to why whenever we think of someone in robes, someone representing the sasana, a clergyman, so to speak, we think of a man. But the saying goes, doesn't it, that behind every successful man, I've heard women say this a lot. Behind every successful man, what is it? There's another man. My friends keep reminding me, well, at least when I was at school, no, it's not like that. In front of some women, there are successful men. That's the way you got to think of it. But in any case, I know my life has been shaped half by the wonderful and extraordinary men who I've had the good fortune of associating with, and the other half have unquestionably been the women in my life. Right from my mother who gave birth to me and who taught me values and good virtues. She kept me safe enough so that one day I would come across the sasana. That was no easy task. Mothers, agree or not? To keep a young child safe in this day and age? How many things do you have to keep them safe from? The list is endless, right? Countless things. I mean, keeping a girl safe sometimes is maybe even easier than keeping a boy safe these days, because, they're always out and about. You can't always be checking after them. They want their freedom, don't they? What does a boy say when you always keep checking on them? Stop nagging me. I'm a young man. I need my independence. That's what they all think they need. Independence from their mother, independence from their father. That's what they think they need. Unfortunately, that is not what they need. It's what they want, but that's not what they need. So many extraordinary women have shaped my life. And I think that is true for all of us here. I don't think there's a single soul here who can put their hand up and say, no, Swamin Wahansa, it was either all by myself or there was only men in my life who shaped me up to be the successful and good and kind-hearted soul that I am today. I don't think that anyone here could actually claim that. Anyone? No, only a fool would. So, across the world, people are doing a lot to help women achieve what they think women should have. There's a lot going on, a lot of movements, a lot of action, a lot of energy, a lot of effort is spent to help women come to, let's just say, equal terms with men. That is a big thing these days. Women are fighting every day, and they have always been fighting for equal rights, the right to vote, the right to, the right to be regarded as equals, the right to every opportunity that a man has access to, the right to education, in some countries even the right to choose your partner. Here we take it for granted, but in some countries that is not the case. Yes, you agree? In some countries it's a privilege to be able to choose your partner. The access to education, in some countries it is not something that women are entitled to. In some countries, women are not allowed to drive. And they have to be a man's servant, so to speak. So there's a lot going on around the world to put women on an equal platform so that they have every right and every privilege, every opportunity that a man does. And we always wish them well, and that's fine, that's great. People should do that, and they will always have to keep doing that. It's always going to be an uphill battle. And the reason for that is this. For as long as you have men who have a sense of inferiority complex, they will not want women to be their equals. I hope there are no men here who hate me right now. But that is what it is. So the only answer, as far as I believe, is in the Dhamma. Because there's no other treatment to inferiority complex. Whenever you feel that you are an identity, you are a self, now you have to compare yourself to someone else. If it's not another woman, it's with another man. You do it at the workplace. Whenever you walk into your office and you walk past the other rooms or the other offices, right? You can't help yourself from comparing what must be their paycheck, what's their paycheck, how come he gets a swiveling chair when I have just a standard chair? These are things, how come he gets a glass-walled office when I have to share my desk with another colleague? These are things that always bother the human heart, and that's because when the mind lacks the Dhamma, you always think that you are an identity, you are an individual, and this individual has to be placed on a pedestal. And you're constantly comparing yourself. And this is rife among some men. I can't say this is true for all, so I'm not going to make any generalizing, sweeping statements, but it is true for actually not even some, maybe even most men around the world. Although society and culture believes that man is superior, which is a generally accepted idea in many parts of the world, maybe not so much in some parts, but in most parts of the world. Although it is so, I think the indoctrinations that are fed into people's minds keep on convincing them that they have to somehow maintain that superiority. What people don't understand is anything you maintain always has an expiry date. And so every time it falls, you have to put it back up again. Things that have to be maintained have a lifespan. For as long as you keep pushing energy into it and fighting for it, it'll survive, but as soon as you pull the plug, then, as soon as you stop doing it, it'll come collapsing down. So man thinks that he has to maintain that superiority. And so what does he do? This is why you hear lots of stories about domestic violence. In some cases, ladies and gentlemen, domestic violence is rooted in a man's inferiority complex. Not because the woman's done anything wrong to him. Did you know? She cooks for him, she washes for him, she bore his children, and she looks after his children. She cleans the house, she does the dishes, she does everything. Everything to the letter. But this man, he goes to work, and then there are his superiors at work who always make him feel undermined. Yeah? So maybe he's just a... Maybe his... I don't want to offend anyone. Maybe his work does not fulfill him. He feels that he's the most inferior person at the workplace. So that sense of inferiority burns him from the inside. It torments him when everyone keeps calling him by his name. In some cultures it is so, like now in other countries, everyone's called by their name. I mean, even the Prime Minister is called by his name. But in other places, it is not so. Some people are referred to as Sir, and others are called by their names. And sometimes if they're not worthy enough to be even called by their name, then what? Here? Here. I say. Yes? So you spend 8 to 5 at the workplace with that, and a man who has no Dhamma feels that his inside is beginning to rot because it hurts him. A man's hunger for recognition and admiration, love and respect far exceeds his hunger for bread. So now we can imagine what's going to happen when he gets back home. He's hurting on the inside, he's crying, he's weeping, and then he comes home and he has his wife, who of course welcomes him. But he's not a happy bunny by the time he gets home. So the first thing that he comes across gets the sharp end of the stick. Sometimes it's the wife, other times it's the dog. Either way, they have to bear the consequences. There may be some among you who may have had the misfortune of experiencing some of that. I'm sorry to rub salt into an old wound, if that is what the situation is. I'm not doing it intentionally. I'm just saying this is what society is like. And that is why we need to give people the Dhamma. And then there may be others whose daughters are going through this. Maybe you're the mother and your daughter rings you every other day and says, Amma, I can't do this anymore. I do everything he's asking me to do. I cook for him, I clean for him, I wash. And then when he comes back home from work, if he has a bad day at work, that's it. It's hell at home. I don't know why he treats me like this. And then what do you say? Dua, just try and be a little bit more patient, be more accepting. Try and understand him. Amma, I'm doing all that. I don't know how I could understand him any more than this. Why can't he understand me? I'm also working. I also have work to do. I have children to look after. How come he doesn't understand me? So these things are just going on, behind closed doors, behind closed curtains. Women get beaten up all day, every day. These Anagarika Mahatmas bear witness to that. Because they do counseling sessions at the monastery. Every day, young women, walk through those gates, pleading mercy, looking for a ray of hope, looking for some respite. They're looking for an oasis because they feel they're stuck in the middle of a desert. All they want is a bit of recognition, that's all. A bit of love. Because some of them, they grew up in loving families. Most of them grown up in loving families. Seldom do you find a family where the mother and father have not actually shown any love at all. You know. You know how much you looked after your little daughter. She was the apple of your eye. You wouldn't put her down. The same goes for sons as well, but I'm talking about a particular situation here. But all day, every day, some women, this is their story. From the day that they got together with their partner, sometimes it all starts even before they get married. Apparently that's so that they can get used to it. Trial. To see whether they can bear it. They have to pass the preliminary tests before they qualify. So there's pre-hell and then there's hell. There are some women who wish they were dead. There are some like that. There are many who walk through those gates. Speak to these Anagarika Mahatmas from once in a while and ask them. There are many who walk through those gates and then they come and share their most intimate stories. Some of them are on the verge of suicide. For only one reason. All they're looking for is a bit of love. Just a bit of love, that's all. They're not asking to be fed. They're not asking to be clothed. They're not asking for luxury. They're not asking for a diamond necklace. They're just asking for a bit of love. Can I be respected for who I am as a human being? Is all they ask for. On the one hand, I have to admit, there is karma and vipaka. Yes, that's true. But when you draw that card, then everything's fair. Yeah, when you pull out that card, everything's fair. But then on the other hand, unless you give them the Dhamma, there is no escape from that. So that's why what we believe is that we need to do more. Because there are many women in our lives who have done so much more for us. I would not be here today if it weren't at least partly for the wonderful and amazing and extraordinary women who shaped my life to what it is today. So while there are women out there who are fighting for the freedom of choice, so that they can choose which partner to get married to, whether they get to vote, whether they can drive, they can get a license, whether they can drink, whether they can smoke, how many children they have, or whether they want to have children at all. In some cultures, it is not for the wife to decide that. The man chooses. Sometimes the man is helpless himself because he's in that society, and society demands and dictates a certain kind of behavior. There are women who are fighting for the right to wear whatever they want to wear. That's one kind of fight. That's one fight. That's one battle. And although we wish them well, we don't get involved in that. Because fighting for the freedom of choice is not a battle you can ever win. In a world where there are those who will always feel that there has to be someone inferior to them so that they can feel what? Superior. There may be many of you who felt the glass ceiling at the workplace. Yes? You can give me a virtual nod. How many interview panels do you think they talk among themselves? You know, if it's a woman, we can take her on, provided she has her top button undone. You think I'm making this up? So it has come to that. You know, it's gone past that point where you can actually lift it up and stand it upright. It's gone past that point. Now it's falling. It's falling, and it's falling fast. Women will keep on fighting. Once again, I have nothing against that. I wish them well. Because you can always try to create an environment to draw good vipaka. And you create an environment to draw bad vipaka. After all, environment is everything. Yes. But our fight and our battle is not for the freedom of choice, but rather it is for the choice of freedom. I want every woman who lives in this world, who is fortunate enough, who has the merits at the very least, because without merits there's nothing you can do. You're only hearing these words because you have the merits to hear these words, not otherwise. That's why I always tell you, don't give me full credit for everything you take from here. You are here in the first place. I didn't bring you here. You came here on your own account. So don't give me full credit for that. At least those women who live in all corners of the world, at least those who have the merits to come across a teaching that will help them to discover the choice of freedom. That's what we stand for. At the end of the day, ladies and gentlemen, this is what I believe. This is my opinion, and I think this is right. What we need to help women is to come out of femininity. Because for as long as you believe you are a woman, for as long as you believe that you are a woman, when you are born into a society that dictates and demands the ways and means in which a woman should behave, you are susceptible to that. There's only so much you can do to fight that. I mean, there were women like, powerful women like Cleopatra. Yeah? But how much has the world actually changed? Sri Lanka was the first country to have a woman in the top place, the top position. But to this day, there's domestic violence. So how come then young girls, in their 20s, early 30s, they come through our gates, They sit down with the Anagarika Mahatmyas and they show their wrists. And on their wrists, there are marks, cuts, bruises. Because it was demanded of them to give something that they didn't want to give. It was either fight or concede. And they were not bold enough to fight because that's not what they'd learnt at home. Their parents never brought them up in a way to fight. So the other option is flight. But if you leave home, if you leave your partner, if you leave your marriage, then comes a social stigma. And then you know what the parents are going to say after that. Who's going to stand up for this? I don't mean against domestic violence. There are many movements out there, there are many freedom fighters out there who are working on that. There are many charities who are working towards that cause against domestic violence. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the violence that women do to themselves by not freeing themselves from the attachment that keeps them bound to an existence. Who's going to talk to them about that? That is the gap that we want to fill. Because that gap has forever existed. Only in the Sambuddha Sasana was there ever an answer to that question. Only the Sambuddha Sasana. So people tell me that a diamond is a girl's best friend. Really? Why do you undermine yourself so much? Something as worthless as a diamond? How about 3 gems instead? Can I offer you 3 gems to replace that 1 diamond? 3 gems? Can you make that your best friend from here on? Women? 3 gems? That is what we have started. In our own little way, this is not a big song and a dance, but in our own little way, we have started a little revolution. It'll pick up pace. Slowly, but gradually, it'll pick up pace. It'll pick up pace not just because of what the Anagarika Mahatmyas are doing. You'll hear from them in a moment. But because of the fact that you care enough about the women in your lives. If you care as much as I do about the women in your life, if you care as much as I do about the women in my life, if you care as much about the women in your life, ladies and gentlemen, then take the gift of Dhamma to them. Take the gift of Dhamma. There is no escape from your vipaka. Na antalikke na samujjamadde. Na pabbhathanang na vivaram pavissa. There is nowhere you can go and hide. Not in the middle of the ocean. Not in the far depths of the oceans. You can't. Not up in the sky, you can't hide. Not in a deep, dark cave somewhere, you can't hide. When your karma comes to bite you, it will catch up with you. You can run, but you can't hide. How can you hide when you are vipaka itself? So the only way you can be free of vipaka is to not exist in the first place. Because existence itself is what? Is vipaka. So how can you hide from your vipaka? There are 2 things that can help you though. One, is to do as much good as you possibly can, so that you try and generate as much as good vipaka as possible, as much good vipaka as possible. That's one thing you can do. We need to educate people so that they can do that for themselves. Last week we had the Katina Pinkama at the monastery. There were many of you who came to the monastery and engaged in that meritorious deed. It filled my heart just to see many of your faces there. Not because I invited you, but because you understood the value of earning merits for your own salvation. That's why. Of course, there may be some who were not able to come last week, but even those who visit from time to time offer some alms to the Mahasangha. You don't need to bring anything for that. Listen to the Dhamma. Associate with noble ones. All of this is doing something for yourselves. This is what I always keep reminding you, ladies and gentlemen. You are far too busy doing what you have to do for other people. And that's great. It's good. It's good. Actually, it's not great. It's good. When you do things for others, it's good. But when you do something for yourself so that you can be free, that is greatness. Because whatever you have done for yourself is what you can do for others. So the more you are able to release yourself from suffering, the more you're able to do that for others. And that is what we do at the monastery. So many of you who arrived last week, you joined in the Pirit chanting. You stayed for the cotton robe offering. And those who arrived had the opportunity to stitch the robe as well. So one of our Swamin Wahanses right now will be bearing that robe. The robe that you stitched with your own 2 hands. All of these are meritorious deeds. This is the currency that you earn for yourself. Today, many of you may be living a reasonably comfortable life. A reasonably comfortable life. In fact, there may be so many people out there who envy the lifestyle that you are privileged to live. Many of you will be living a reasonably comfortable life. Don't forget for one moment, though, that what you have achieved today is the fruits of your labor from your previous times, from your previous lives. Sometimes we tend to forget that. It is so true, I couldn't emphasize this enough, that there is no such thing as a free lunch. It is so true. If ever you've had a lunch, that was not free. You had to earn it. If you have a mother today who cares so deeply about you, if you have a husband today who loves you to the moon and back, if you have a father who dotes on you, if you have a friend who is always watching your back, if you have the basic comforts that you have in life, a roof above your head, 3 square meals, something to keep you warm, and whenever you're down, whenever you're sick, whenever you're ill, there's a doctor at hand, a nurse at hand to nurse you back to good health. If you have these things, ladies and gentlemen, don't undermine and don't take them for granted. Each and every single thing that you have earned today was actually something you had earned. Give yourself credit for that. What I'm saying is give yourself credit for that. I'm saying don't thank me for it. Don't look up the skies and thank the heavens for it. God is kind to those who are kind to others. See? So if you believe it was the heavenly powers that gave you what you have today, then why was it given to you? And why are there some children who die as soon as they're born because they don't have the basic necessities they need? How come God didn't give them? How come today you live worry-free? You're not worried that a bomb might come and crash over your head? But there are those who wake up today not sure whether they'll be able to live the day because there's a war going on. They're rummaging in the skips, in the garbage cans, trying to find some leftovers so that they can eat something to sate their hunger. Do you think that's God's fault? You think God's unfair? You think Vipaka's unfair? Those who do not have the guts, the courage, the bravery to take responsibility for their own actions, you know what they do? They always point their finger outwards, either that way or that way. The God believers, they go that way. It's Him. If He created me, He should provide for me. Well, guess what? He is. He is. Those who don't believe in God, or a heavenly power, or karma vipaka, it's you. You're the one who took it all from me. You're the one who took it all from me. Give it back. When are people going to learn to take responsibility for their own actions? They will when they understand that is how the world works. This is why we have to empower people, ladies and gentlemen. We have to empower. We have to empower people. And knowledge empowers. Right knowledge empowers. Right views, they empower. It's time we did that. It's time we showed every woman who is a victim of domestic violence. It's time we showed every woman who is the victim of rape, who's a victim of abuse, that she can do something about it and not wait for someone else to do something about it. That is empowerment. If you are in a pit, would you rather not have the means to come out of it on your own? Or would you rather wait for someone to come and, when they have some time, after they've had a cup of tea and a biscuit, and come and pull you out in their merry time? Which would you rather? I'll give you the two options. I can either call the fire ambulance. They'll come when they come, because there are so many people to save. You are just another number. Or I can give you the skills that you need. I can teach you how to pull yourself up. Which would you rather? Don't you want to feel empowered? Today, to whatever extent you have understood the Dhamma, don't you feel empowered? Take yourself back a few months, a few years. When you were angry, you didn't know what to do. You thought the only answer to anger was to take a walk, or to kick the dog, or to take it out on the people around you. Your children got the brunt of the stick. Your husband did, your mother did, your father did, your friends did, your furniture did. That drawer you had at home, it was a smooth closing one before, wasn't it? Now you have to push it in. The pantry, they were not supposed to be closed like that. It was soft touch. But then once in a while, you close it with a bang. Remember when you got angry? Because you didn't know what anger was. So you didn't know what to do with it. You felt vulnerable. And then the Dhamma came into your life. See how empowered you are today, thanks to the Dhamma. It's not me, I'm not your savior. The Dhamma is your savior. I'm only the messenger. The Dhamma is your savior, ladies and gentlemen. That is why, if you care as much as I do about every woman in this world who deserves to hear this truth, I speak not only to the women in the house, but also to every man in this house as well, and to those who will be listening to this online today, tomorrow, and maybe in 100 years' time. Unless you believe that you're coming up to whatever you are today, your success is solely your doing, and no one has had any part to play in that, then you owe it to the people in your life, the people who helped bring you up and shape you up to the person you are today. You owe it to them, ladies and gentlemen, to give them the love and affection that they gave you once. Perhaps today she's your grandmother. Maybe she's safe at home. Maybe she's no longer the victim of domestic violence, but she still has hatred in her heart. You don't think that kills her? Maybe she has regret in her heart. It's only another mind. What has aged is her body, not her mind. If defilements still lie dormant, then she is still a victim of her own circumstances. Dhamma to the rescue. We are so fortunate to live in the land of the Buddha. I tell you, my God, I can't believe how fortunate we are to at least live in the land of the Buddha. The land that the Buddha claimed where his Dhamma would flourish. You can count your lucky stars, ladies and gentlemen. Just don't die. Hang in there. Hang in there. Don't die. Don't die until you have become a Sotapanna. Or at least you have earned enough merits to know that even if you do die, you will come back where the Buddha's teaching still prevails. What did the Buddha say? He said, let go. What are people doing? They're fighting over where the Buddha was born. What did the Buddha say? Let go. This is a fight we have to do with ourselves, not with someone else. Isn't your self big enough? Do you need another self to fight with? Isn't your self big enough? I don't ask this from you. I ask this from the people who fight these unnecessary, useless battles. Isn't your self big enough? Why do you need someone else, another self to fight with? Killing yourself is a big deal itself. That's what I'm saying. But think about all the people in all other parts of the world. These days, these sermons, they're reaching out far and wide because people are doing merits of some sort, and not just that, you are instrumental in that. You've been sharing these sermons with other people far and wide. You've been passing it to your friends, your families, your siblings, your colleagues, and they onto theirs, and so on. Today we keep receiving messages from people from right on the other side of the world. From Brazil, from America, from you name it. From Japan. From all over the world, people are writing in these days. Nowadays they're writing in and they're saying, this is what I was looking for. Not dollars or pounds or yen. This is what I was looking for. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you. Thank you. You are beginning to make a change in people's lives, people you don't even know. People you have never met, at least not in this life. But you are so good that you have not forgotten that there are those who cross paths with you in many lives before, who fed you, sheltered you, looked after you, cared for you, gave you love, care, and attention and they deserve it just as much as your mother does today. So you share. Sharing is caring. In this game, there's not much more you can do, right? To care, to show your care, what more can you do? You share. Sharing is caring. Sometimes I see documentaries about the sex trade. People show me documentaries. Because, we study these things to see how else we can arm ourselves to help these women. When we speak to Anagarika Mahatmas, we show them those documentaries. There are many countries where the sex trade starts right from their teenage years, 13 years old. Today I have a 13-year-old Anagarika Dua with me. She will come and talk to you in a moment. But then there are 13-year-olds in some parts of the world. I'm not going to name the names of those countries because it would seem as an insult. But there are young girls as young as 13 years of age. They wake up every morning knowing that that day is going to be spent selling their body to strangers. They don't get to go to school. That's off limits. Then what Dhamma do you think they're going to learn? And besides, they're not interested in just going to a temple and offering some flowers because they don't understand how that's going to help them. That's not their fault. Someone has to teach them what you can gain by offering a flower, what the significance of that is. For that, someone has to give them the Dhamma. And then help them to understand the Dhamma, the doctrine, the pure doctrine that the Buddha taught, the Four Noble Truths. So we show these videos to Anagarika Mahatmas and we tell them, see, they speak these languages. They speak Spanish. So what do you want to do? We ask Anagarika Mahatmas and they say, I will learn Spanish, Swaminivas. They speak Hindi. They speak Tagalog. What do you want to do? I'll learn the language, Swaminivas. They speak Urdu. If it comes to it, we'll learn it. Don't you want to make a dent in this universe? Don't you think you're capable of that? Don't you think you are capable of making a dent in the universe? Shouldn't your life amount to something? You of all human beings, shouldn't your life amount to something? Just take a moment to think about who you are. Put the Dhamma to aside for a second. Do you think that you are fulfilling your 100% potential? Don't you think that there's a lot more you could do to help heal the world? You are a human being for starters. You're educated. You're smart. You're clever. You know how the world works. You know people who know people. People listen to you. They look up to you. They want to hear what you have to say. They respect you. So, with all that going for you, don't you feel that you can make a dent in the universe? I know I can, and I will. So if we can all do that, when we come together, don't you think that's a force to be reckoned with? Isn't that what the Buddha would have wanted from the 21st generation? The 21st century generation. If the Buddha were here today, just imagine, he couldn't do anything, but he could speak to us. Just imagine that. All he could do was speak to us. He couldn't go preaching the Dhamma, go roaming and talking to people, but he could speak to us. what do you think he would ask us to do? He could look in his divine eye and see all the people out there who have the potential to understand the Dhamma. I think this is what he will do. He will call you, he'll summon you. He will say, don't forget that you are here today because of all these other people who were the stepping stone for you to get where you are today. Your mother in this life gave you birth, yes, but your mother before that was who made sure that you were going to be human, to come into a human womb. Your mother in this life gave you a human womb, yes, but your mother in your previous life, she qualified you to be born human. That mother may be today in some part of the world and she's a victim of rape. I can't stop rape. It'll happen forever. I don't think anyone's going to be able to stop it. They can curb it from time to time, but I don't think it's going to stop. But then there are those women, and sometimes even men, who are victims of that, and now they can't stop cursing themselves for it. That's not fair. Yes, it was a vipaka. That came to fruition. They suffered, yes. But now, it's a new day. It's another life, another opportunity. Let me have that opportunity. And I'll transform her. I'll show her her value. I'll help her stop thinking that she's a rape victim. Because that's the killer. You know, you can survive rape, maybe. Most people survive rape. But what they won't be able to survive is the guilt that comes with it. The feeling of inadequacy that comes with it. The feeling that she's dirty from there on. That she won't be able to survive. Then she takes her life. Now she is the victim twice. Once because of her previous karma, and second, because of her ignorance. The first, I can't do anything about. The second, I will make sure I do something about it. Don't you want to? These are your sisters. These are your daughters. These are your children. Your mothers. The people in your lives, ladies and gentlemen. That's why we say that's why I say we have started a revolution. This revolution can only be successful with your support. We don't want anything from them. You know that by now. We don't come here to take anything. We come here to give. I mean, after all, if you want to get anything, what's the way to get it? To give, right? So by that account itself, I have not come here to take anything. I have come here to give, because that is the only way that I could get. Even if that was my ulterior motive. I can only get by giving, so I have not come here to get. I have come here to give. The Buddha Sasana is here to give. Because the Buddha Sasana is perfect. So, what our Anagarika Mahatmyas have been doing over the last 2 or so years. So when we first arrived at the monastery about 7 years ago, there were just 10 of us monks. It was a much smaller place than it is today. The land was there, but there were no people. What makes a monastery? The land? The stupas? The pagodas? or the Buddha statues. What makes a monastery? It's in the heart. Hearts make a monastery. So fast forward a few years, we started an Anagarika program. Because every woman who has the merit deserved every opportunity that I had. And so we started an Anagarika program. And it has been thriving since. We started with 13 Anagarika Mahatmyas. Today, there are 13 and 100 more. Isn't that something to rejoice? Young, successful people, some of them who had achieved the pinnacle of their careers, but then realized, this is not what I want in life. Not money, that's not what I wanted. Not a husband, that's not what I wanted in life. Not recognition, that's not what I wanted. Not ranks, not titles, not what I wanted in life. Not a PhD, not what I wanted in life. They went after all those things because they thought that that was the means to the end that they wanted. But then they realized, no, nothing doing. It's just not happening. And then they came across the Dhamma. Life changed. Today, they're healing every heart that walks through those gates. I'm so proud of them for what they have been able to become. For what they have been able to become, ladies and gentlemen. That's what I'm proud of. Not who they were when they started, but for what they have been able to become. Healers, nurses, doctors. There'll be many here who are a testimony to that. Those among you who've come in, talked to Anagarika Mahatmyas, and brought your problems. Every time we do a meditation retreat, there's opportunity for you to come and talk to them, and you will have talked to them. Just as much as you might be impressed by the understanding of the Dhamma of the Swamin Wahanses, were you not equally impressed by how well the Anagarika Mahatmyas preach the Dhamma and expound concepts of the Dhamma and give you examples that relate to your lives, because they come from very normal backgrounds just as much as everyone else. And there's something else we have also brought for you. So last week we had the Pirit chanting, and like we did last year, there were some of you who were able to join us. Last year we had the sermon, so not many were able to join, but this year quite a few of you were there. You got to listen to Maitri Handru give a preaching as well, so that was quite something. But we have also brought Pirit threads for all of you. And you're fortunate that we have the Anagarika Mahatmyas here today, because typically I can only tie a Pirit thread on the hands of a wrist of the gents. But today, the ladies in the house are fortunate because you can collect the Pirit thread from me and you can have the Anagarika Mahatmyas tie it on your wrist. See, Christmas has come early. Another short announcement to make. Next Saturday, which is going to be the 23rd, madam? Yes. The 23rd, we will have an ordination ceremony at the monastery. Unfortunately, this time we don't have any Rajagirian representatives. However, we are all part of the family. There's going to be 13 noble sons who will be going forth into the sasana to become young samaneras. I say young as in young as a samanera. Some of them are not so young, but they're still young at heart. I particularly mention and invite you to these occasions, ladies and gentlemen, because when you witness it, there's something that happens within you when you rejoice in it. It's one thing to hear about it and rejoice. It's one thing to actually be there, see it, experience it, and rejoice it. Answer this question for me. There's a nice movie that's just come out. Would you rather like to watch it and enjoy it, or shall I watch it and tell you what it was like? Which one are you going to buy a ticket for? Well, that's the point. So if you can make it on the Saturday, it's not just to be there as moral support for them. It's not just that. You're all part of the Jetavana family, whether you are an Ingirin or a Rajagirian. That makes no difference. Guru Hamdra always tells me, sometimes he asks, did you mention that to the Rajagiriya group? I said, no, Guru Hamdra. Why? Aren't they our devotees as well? He asks. So on more than one occasion he's asked me that, and then I've had to apologize. And then the following week I come and inform you about it. So for us there is no difference as such. But I understand that distance is sometimes a problem, and being a Saturday, again, some of you will be busy. But like I said, the reason that you came to the Pirit chanting was because that is an opportunity for you to earn merits. When you're at an ordination ceremony, you actually get to witness how parents are prepared to give up, how young men are prepared to give up. This giving up is a virtue. Because what you don't know until you give up is that what you gave up was suffering after all. When you give up is when you realize what you gave up was suffering. It's your attachment and your bonds which you somehow have to sever to free yourself from samsara. So when you are there, you will get to see how mothers and fathers are prepared to give the sasana to their children. Some ask me, is it giving the child to the sasana? I say no, it's giving the sasana to the child. That is what the Buddha sasana is. It is what is precious. So we give something precious to those who are precious to us. So when you are there, you get to experience that. And what I want you to do when you are there is make a resolve. My teachers always teach me, whenever you make a resolve, after having done a meritorious deed, those resolutions are very strong, very powerful. That's why you have heard of many people, they go to the temple, they offer flowers. Some go to the Kovils and they make offerings to the Devas, right? Some go to the Devala and they offer things, and then they make resolutions. Like, may I bear a child, for instance. May I pass my exams. May I be well, may I be healthy, and so on. It's not that there's no essence to it at all. There is. It's not necessarily that the Devas give you anything per se. It's not that there is something out there that comes to save you. It's your own merit that is always your savior. So when you make a meritorious deed, when you do a meritorious deed and then make a resolution, the Buddha says it in the Pali, Pubbé katapugngnatá. It's one of the Mangala factors. It's in the Mahamangala Sutra. Pubbé katapugngnatá. When you do a meritorious deed and then make a resolution, what resolution would you make? Just as these sons go forth to attain their spiritual liberation, may I one day be able to do the same. That one day will come someday, but every time you make that resolve, it comes to you and you move one step closer. It's very powerful when you do it that way. That is why the invitation. If you come, that's another mouth to feed. Oh, on that note, there were some of you who'd brought your own food when you came to the monastery last week. And I asked why, and the answer was, Swaminasa, because we didn't want to be a hassle. Please, ladies and gentlemen, you couldn't be a hassle to us even if you tried. You have resolved to walk in the path of the noble ones. That is the reward that we want from you. That is a gift to mankind. It's the gift to your teachers. That is the greatest gift that I can ever ask for. That is the pirikara that you offer me. Your commitment, your dedication to walk the noble path. I'm more than happy to give you food from my alms bowl, if it comes to that. So I admire your generosity and your kindness and your thoughtfulness, but it is not necessary. Okay? There has never been a day where we've not had enough to feed everyone. And that is not, again, because it's some kind of magic. It's because we give. All the time we give. Giving is all we know and giving is all we do. We give because you give. I don't earn. I don't have lands. I don't have fields I cultivate. Right? I don't have any of that. You give, so we give. So we give through you, and you give through us. Ultimately, we all give, and because we all give, there's never a shortage. There's never been a day we've been hungry, and by now we have 500 of us. 500 in our family. Everyone is fed every day. And in addition to the 500, we have the Sila Shravakas, we have the Sila Shravikas, we have the Sila Vasis, who come in almost every day in total, and then we have the devotees who come in. You know, on average, every day we cook at least, if you count morning and lunch together, at least 2,000 meals. At least 2,000 plates are served. No one's ever had to go hungry. Unless there's been some kind of miscalculation. But other than that, no one's ever had to go hungry. That is not some kind of miracle. It's the gift of giving. So, when you come next time, you don't need to bring a packed lunch, okay? Unless, of course, you're not happy with the menu at the monastery. So, it's not going to be a grand menu. That I'll have to apologize for. We have the usual, always, right? Rice and curry. And the following day we have curry and rice. That's as exciting as it gets. But no one goes hungry. And because we have all understood that food is simply to sate your hunger, right? Our tongues don't do any talking or any asking anymore. So you need not bring a packed lunch. We will have all that. All you have to do is turn up, rejoice, spread your loving kindness and compassion to the whole universe. That's something that you can do. That is your giving. Come empty-handed. I always say, come empty-handed. But bring your heart with you. That beautiful heart that you have inside your chest, bring that with you. You can do tremendous amounts of good with just your heart. You don't need anything else. Bring that to the monastery. Witness all the good deeds that people are doing. Look at the Anagarika Mahathas, how they're running around like ants, serving and helping each other, helping the other devotees as they come in. Look at the Anagarika Mahatmyas as they do their counseling sessions and do everything they can to help support whatever is going on. Look at the monks who are the spiritual leaders at the monastery, leading the way, guiding the way, and helping everyone. And rejoice and be part of that. That's all we ask for. So, next Saturday, if it's a free date in your diary, or if you can make it free, then please come. Right, let's do the merit transfer then, and bring the sermon to a close. Merry Christmas, everyone. Let's all take a moment then to transfer the merits that we have all acquired by making offerings to the infinite virtues of the Noble Triple Gem, listening to the Dhamma and creating a conducive environment for all to come along and practice, as well as all contributions you have made to propagate the Dhamma, to sustain the Dhamma, and to proliferate the Dhamma. Reminding of all those meritorious deeds that you have done, let us take a moment to transfer all those merits to all who are deserving of it. First and foremost, let us take a moment to transfer these merits to the bhikkhus and bhikkhunis, upasakas and upasikas, who have since time immemorial protected and preserved the sublime teachings of the Buddha, and passed it down through generations of the noble lineage in the form of the Tripitaka, which is thankfully available to us today to study, understand, and comprehend the Dhamma. Let us transfer these merits to all monks and nuns resident throughout the world, including the Mahanayakas and the Anunayaka Theras of all of the chapters, as well as the monks and nuns resident in your local temples and nunneries who have always been by your side through thick and thin, come rain or shine. Let us transfer these merits to my teacher Guru Swami Mahanse, as well as all the monks, Anagarikas and Anagarikas resident and attached to the monastery. Let us take a moment to transfer these merits to those who make great efforts to disseminate the teachings of the Buddha, be that by transliterating these talks, sharing these talks with others, and inviting others to join them. May they all rejoice in these merits. Let us also take a moment to transfer these merits to those who make great efforts. I beg your pardon. Let us take a moment to transfer these merits to those who contribute in the name of merits for their Nibbana, to the Mahasangha, who provide the Mahasangha with shelter, arms, robes, and medicines, as well as pass on their know-how and continue to extend their well wishes. May they all rejoice in these merits. Let us also transfer these merits to our mothers, fathers, brothers, sisters, sons, and daughters, loved ones, our teachers, and anyone and everyone who've helped us, supported us, and assisted us in any way, shape, or form, who go the extra mile to make our lives as comfortable as could be. Let us transfer all these merits to all of them, and by the power of these merits, may they be healed of any physical and mental ailments and overcoming obstacles to their spiritual progress. May they abstain from the unmeritorious deeds, fulfill the meritorious deeds, fulfill the Noble Eightfold Path, and may they all attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Let us also take a moment to transfer these merits to the Devas and Brahmas, spirits and demons, primarily the Sakadeva, as well as all the gods and deities who have committed themselves to protect and fulfill the Sambuddhasasana. Let us transfer these merits to our guardian deities who keep a watchful eye over us and keep us out of harm's way. May they prosper in divine power and wisdom. May they abstain from the unmeritorious deeds, fulfill the meritorious deeds, fulfill the Noble Eightfold Path, and may they all attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Let us also take a moment to transfer these merits to those who passed away in our name, our loved ones, our forefathers, our ancestors, reminding ourselves that it is in their blood, sweat, and tears today we are able to enjoy the comforts of life and practice the path in peace and harmony. Let us transfer these merits to members of the armed forces as well as the police force who sacrificed their lives to protect the peace and harmony of our nation. Let us transfer these merits also to those who have lost their lives to natural disasters such as tsunamis and earthquakes, landslides, fires, floods, pandemics, and so on, reminding ourselves that among them will be those who have been friends and family to us, parents to us, siblings to us, those who have gone the extra mile on our behalf, loved us, cared for us, and looked after us. With an abundance of compassion and loving kindness towards all of them, let us transfer all the merits that we have acquired to all. May by the power of these merits, if any of them have been born in the woeful planes, they redeem themselves and be born in the blissful plane. May they abstain from the unmeritorious deeds, fulfill the meritorious deeds, fulfill the Noble Eightfold Path, and may they all attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. And finally, may by the power and blessings of all the merits we have acquired throughout the day, we be able to witness the advent of many hundreds of thousands of Arahants on this blessed land. And finally, may you and I, and everyone who's helped make this program a success, become a Rahatan Vahanse or an Arahatheranin Vahanse in this life itself, and in the era of the Sambuddhasasana itself. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. May the blessings of the Noble Triple Gem be with you all. And the members of the Mahasangha will now transfer their blessings to you. Raga ginnen midatnva Dvesha ginnen midatnva Moha ginnen midatnva Nibbāna parama sukhayan sukhita taravetnva Nibbāna parama sukhayan sukhita taravetnva Mamada siyalu loka siyalu satnvayo Nibbāna parama sukhayan sukhita taravetnva Nibbāna parama sukhayan sukhita taravetnva Nibbāna parama sukhayan sukhita taravetnva Raga gini niveva Dvesha gini niveva Moha gini niveva Nivan sapa labeva Nivan sapa labeva Nivan sapa labeva Tunurange Susi Ananta Mahaguna Belen Silu Loka Silu Satyoma Nibbāna Paramasukhayan Sukhita Taravetva Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.